Welcome to L-Space Archives. I'm Rob. We are over halfway through March, which means it's time for a monthly wrap-up video for January. So obviously I haven't put up a video for a while. I've sort of been going back and forth whether I should explain why, and then the other side of me says, why would anybody care? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up a banner that says personal crap you have no reason to care about. Um, I'll make it brief, I'll make it quick. Feel free to just fast forward until that banner's gone. I'm not going to be offended. In fact, I would encourage it because the only thing more boring than me talking about it is you having to listen to it. So, in the end of January, early February, I had a medical issue, a large deep cyst in the back of my shoulder, which ruptured. I am about 6 weeks into an 8-week course of antibiotics. They're not going to be able to do surgery until the middle of April. Um, but the inflammation was putting pressure on on a nerve. They went from the spine on the back of my neck to my rotator cuff, making it impossible for me to concentrate on anything for any length of time, difficult to sleep. Just, I couldn't concentrate on making videos. I couldn't concentrate on reading. My reading for February and March is horrible. And worst of all, I couldn't really concentrate on writing. And I have two first drafts that are supposed to be due here in a couple of weeks that I have no idea whether I'm going to make it in time or not. I'm going to have to try to, I know myself and I know I'm not a fast writer, so I'm going to have to try and channel some of those old pulp writers to see if I can bang out something in a couple of weeks. I would ask for an extension, but I think that's unfair to all the other people who are submitting, so I'm not going to do that. But we'll see how far I get. Anyway, for the past couple of days, some of the inflammation has gone down. I'm feeling quite a bit better. So I'm going to try to crank out as many videos as I can. When I have the surgery in April, I don't know what the recovery time is going to be on that, but we'll play it by ear. All right, enough of that boring personal crap. Let's move on to something fun. So, January was actually an amazing month for me because I got to be a guest on my first two live streams. The first one was with Jeff at Jeff's Cave of Cool Books, where we did a buddy read of an entire pulp magazine. Um, while I wasn't particularly fond of, especially the main story in this, I can tell you that talking to Jeff about it was fantastic. It was a great experience. Um, the most fun of this was talking about the backstories of the author and the editor and the shenanigans that they were getting up to. But thank you, Jeff, for suggesting this. I would love to do this more often. Like I said, uh, the discussion was a million times better than the actual stories itself, but it was a great time. The next one I did was I was on Ebes with Nick from the book Graveyard, Jake from Pulp Mortem, Tim from Secret Fire Books, along with the other guest, which was Keith from Tau Zero, where we did a buddy read of Bob Shaw's NightWalk. Um, this was a fun book. I think all five of us recommended it. It's flawed. It relies a lot on coincidence, some pacing issues at certain points, but overall, this book has a little something for everyone. Both of those live streams, I've created a playlist where any live streams that I'm a guest on, they're on my channel page, so you can check those out. Also, leave up one of those title cards at the end of this video, so if you want to check out those live streams, if you haven't already seen them. But this was a great time, and I was really happy that they invited me to be on there. It's funny because when I first started this channel, I had expected that the only people who'd ever watch it would be my wife and my sister-in-law. And my wife used to joke with me that, oh, well, now you have a YouTube channel. Maybe you'll get invited to be on Ebes. And it was always like, yeah, right. Like that's ever going to happen. Because in our household, that's sort of like being invited to be on Johnny Carson's show or something. And I know from my analytics that my audience is old enough to know who Johnny Carson is. So, but that was a great time. Um, Speaking of live streams, even though I wasn't able to make videos, I did get to do another live stream over on David's channel, Garage Geek. Those guys were great, and it really took my mind off things. So I really appreciate that. And then following that, I did another live stream um, on Jeff's channel again with David from Garage Geek and Chadwick from Chadwick's channel stuff. I'll put all their links to their channels. And like I said, all those videos are on a playlist for live streams. Okay, so other than those, the other books that I read, first one was a children's book by Tanith Lee called Animal Castle. And this has pictures done by Helen Craig. This is a fantastic, this was 5 stars for me, which isn't surprising. It's Tanith Lee. But even though it's a children's book, Tanith Lee does not dumb things down. It's written in a way that children can enjoy it, grown-ups can enjoy it. It's about a prince who they don't have any pets there, they don't have any animals there, and his sister, the princess, comes to visit with her pet dog. They're all enamored of it. The prince decides they need to start incorporating pets into their kingdom. So he goes on a hunt and finds cats and dogs and owls and all sorts of animals, builds a castle for them. They treat them like gods. The animals get a bit spoiled and start taking advantage, but it all works out to a happy ending in the end. But this is delightful, especially if you're a pet owner. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether you're a child or a grown up. This is a delightful book. I also read Tanith Lee's Unsilent Night. This was put out by NESPA Press. It was in honor of BosCon, the convention that NESPA Press hosts. This was in honor of Tanith Lee's first appearance as a guest of honor at any sci-fi convention. This was a limited edition just put out for that. There are 2 short stories in here and also 10 previously unpublished poems. I don't know if those poems have been published later on in other works or not. But don't worry, you don't have to spend a whole bunch of money trying to get this. This is just me because I need to own everything. Sorry, I need glasses for this. So the first story in here is a short story, Siriamus, Siriamnus. And then there's 10 poems, and then Syrian and Wax. Now, Syrianamus can also be found in the Gorgon and other beastly tales. And Syrian and Wax can also be found in the collection of Syrian stories. I highly recommend this, especially, well, both of these. But the first story, Syriamnus, I gave that one a 4-star rating. It was really good, but I'm only giving it a 4-star in comparison with other Tanith Lee stories. I don't have any criticisms of it as far as writing, its characters, the prose is all perfect. It just personal ineffable taste. There are other stories of hers that I liked a lot better, so I'm only giving it 4 stars in comparison with other Tanith Lee stories. Now, as far as the poems go, I am not an expert in poetry, so I can't really give them a rating. I'm reading more of the sort of classic epic poetry or narrative poems. Um, they all seemed well written to me, but what do I know? I would say about half of them struck a chord with me. The other half I found interesting, but again, I'm not an expert on that, so your mileage may vary. The last story in here, though, was Syrian in Wax, which can also be found in the collection of Syrian stories. And this was definitely a 5-star story. If you get a chance to pick this up, you should. Um, the Syrian is sort of like a cross between Sherlock Holmes and Zorro. He's a master swordsman. He's smart. He's a bit of a ladies' man. It's very sword and sorcery set in sort of an alternate European uh, type situation. Um, but Syrian is with a young lady who in a pub, and gentleman named the doll maker comes in, and she's warning him not to mess with him. He has magic, etc. And of course, Syrian, who's a bit of a braggart, decides to go and mess with him. And I'll leave it at that because this is really, really worth reading. Um, all right. So those were the two Tanith Lee books that I read. Then I also read Fredric Brown's The Fabulous Clipjoint. And most people in this area of booktube probably know Fredric Brown from his science fiction stories. When it comes to short stories, he is sort of equally split between mysteries and sci-fi, but when it comes to novels, he wrote far more mystery and detective stories than he actually did sci-fi. I had only read his sci-fi before. I read Martians Go Home, which I loved. I've read a few of his short stories, which I've loved. So this Fabulous Clip Joint, this is the first book in the Ed and Am Hunter series. It is fantastic. This was a 5-star read for me. Um, it is about Ed Hunter, who is, I believe, around 18 years old, lives with his dad, who is an alcoholic, his stepmom, who's also a bit of an alcoholic, and his stepsister. Um, when he finds out that his dad has been murdered in an alleyway, he goes to visit his uncle Ambrose, who is a carny. They come back to Chicago and solve the mystery, and this is just perfect, perfect book. It is book one in that series of Ed and Am Hunter. Um, I have the rest of the books in the series, so I'm looking forward to continuing on and reading more about these. But I highly, highly recommend this. I saw that Joseph from Joseph Reads Anything, no, Joseph from Joseph Reads Books, also read this in January, uh, and he also gave it a high review, and it's well worth a read. I also read another Fredric Brown, which it turns out that Joseph Reads Anything also read. I think he read it in February. Um, Unbeknownst to me, we both just happened to read the same exact two Fredric Brown books, and this is What Mad Universe. This I highly recommend. It's a 5-star read. It is about a editor for a old pulp sci-fi magazine, which something happens to him, and he ends up in a alternate universe where every sci-fi trope imaginable is real. It's humorous, but yet it all makes sense in the end, and the characters, the plot, everything, the world building. I loved everything about this. Um, strong, strong recommendation for sci-fi fans, especially if you love those old pulp magazines. Everything from alien invasions, weird tales, to uh, scantily clad space women whose uniforms make no sense. It's all in here, and yet it all makes sense. Um, that was it for January. In February, I only read two books in February. One of them was because I saw Deb was getting to read Out of the Dead City by Samuel R. Delany. This is book one in trilogy. Uh, I saw that she was getting ready to read this. I just happened to have this sitting close to me on a shelf, so I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and read it too. Um, you can check out her review. Um, I would say out of the Samuel, comparing it to other Samuel R. Delany books, I would probably give this around a 4 star. I really, really enjoyed it. If I was rating it on its own, it would probably be closer to a 5 star, but I'm sort of unfairly rating it against other Samuel R. Delany books. But it is a fantastic story. Check out Deb's review of this. I also recommend this. I have the other 2 books in the series, which I plan on reading hopefully soon. I will say that there is a slight difference in my version than the one that Deb has. Deb still has the version that has the original prologue in it. Um, in the revised version that Delany did, he removed that prologue, or at least moved it to later on in the book. Um, so that scene where we get introduced to the main character happens much later in this. Um, but still, a fantastic, fantastic book. Okay. The other book that I read in February, I'm not going to talk about yet because I'm going to do a separate video on that. And that is the final book in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. Um, that is The Shepherd's Crown. I'm going to do a whole video on Discworld and the final novel and why it took me so long, or why I purposely waited so long to read that final novel. Um, so that's it for everything I've read. Unfortunately, like I said, I didn't read a whole lot in February, and I've read nothing in March. Something else that happened in January, a while back, Deb the Omnivorous Reader sent me something in the mail. Through no fault of her own, the Australian post office put in the wrong address. They put in an address across the street from me. The only problem is that there is no house across the street from me. That address doesn't exist. But it made it all the way from Australia to my local post office, which is only like 5 or 6 blocks away from where I live. And at that point, they went, "This address doesn't exist." So they sent it all the way back to Australia. Deb, bless her heart, sent it all the way back to me again with the corrected address on there. And so I'm just going to put up a picture. Deb, if you don't know, she also paints, is a very talented artist. And I saw this image that she did that she had put on a t-shirt, and I commented on it, how much I loved it. So I'm just going to put the picture up on the screen. But yeah, kangaroos getting abducted by UFOs is awesome, and the most Australian thing ever, or at least the most Australian thing that we Americans can imagine ever. But I absolutely love this. I have it put away right now because I need to make a custom frame for it, or I need to customize a frame that I already have so it fits on it. But that will be going up on my wall. Thank you, Deb. That means a lot to me. I absolutely love that painting. Okay, so what have I been doing with my time? Well, uh, mostly I've just been trying to zone out, catching up on old Dark Shadows episodes and binge watching those because I don't need to focus on it. It's a soap opera, so they will repeat themselves endlessly. However, I also have some videos I need to do because I have 2 months worth of book hauling that I need to catch up on. So I have 5 or 6 banker boxes filled with books. So I'll probably have to split that up into maybe 3 or 4 videos, unless you guys would like to see just one long marathon book haul video. Let me know in the comments. I can do that too. So that's it. I think we're all caught up on the last 3 months, at least everything of importance. Um, Hopefully we'll be able to have a lot more videos coming your way. I also still have a few other bigger project videos that I'm working on that got pushed to the back burner in the past couple months, but those will be coming up. One of them is I have reacquired, or still have, every book I've ever read from the time of the very first book I read when I was 5 years old to up to my 18th birthday. I've reacquired the exact same versions, exact same editions that I had then, books, magazines, all of it. So I'm going to be putting out another massive video on that. It's probably not going to happen until after mid-April. Um, Realistically, probably more towards May. I'm also working on a Barrington J. Bailey story, and then we're going to start having a few Who's on My Shelf tours to take you around to some of the authors who I've collected their bibliographies. And so we're going to have ones on Tanith Lee, Terry Pratchett, Richard Matheson. I'm getting closer to completing Andre Norton's collection, still a few away. Um, who else? A lot of others. Anyway, we'll have that coming up, and hopefully we'll get ourselves back on track. Thanks for watching.